As we have learned, even though Joseph Eversole was killed along with Nick Combs, the French and Eversole feud was still continuing. We now have a new leadership under the helm of John Campbell. How effective of a leader would Campbell be? And would he restore law and order to Hazard, Kentucky? Why would the back-to-back murders of Shade Combs and Elijah Morgan cause such chaos in the area that Judge Lilly felt that he needed to contact Governor Buckner? Would the troops be sent into the area to restore peace? Or would the plea go ignored? And if it was ignored, what was the reason given? Come along with us as we try to answer these questions and more in today's continuation of the French and Eversole feud. All aboard the Kentucky-Tennessee Living Time Machine. Please fasten your seatbelts and keep your arms and legs inside of the vehicle at all times. But to get going, we need your help. We still need to fire up the time machine to transport us. Please help us by clicking on the like, subscribe, and bell notification buttons down below. Not only does this fire up the time machine, but it convinces YouTube that we need a bigger time machine to reach more people who love history as much as you do. Now, back to our story. The leadership of John Campbell. With the absence of the French faction, John Campbell went to work making sure that Hazard was safe. He surrounded the town with armed guards. Squads of men patrolled the streets and other men scouted the mountains in the area. Only those that knew the password could come into town. Those that attempted to get past the guards was met with a barrage of bullets hurled their way. Campbell was expecting an attack from the French faction any day now. He therefore believed that military methods should be deployed for the safety of the faction. Shade Combs. Shade Combs came to John Campbell one day and asked for permission to ambush and kill certain members of the French faction. Campbell not only gave his permission, but also furnished him men to accomplish the task. Somehow, the men who were targeted got wind of the plot to end their lives. They stopped the plot by making the hunter now the hunted. Combs was able to escape death in the mountains. However, this would not be for long. One morning, while saddling his horse at his home, Combs was ambushed, shot, and died. The death of John Campbell. Perhaps it was due to his overactive, cautious nature that led to Campbell's death. Perhaps it was the overdrilling of the men with the order to shoot to kill anyone who did not have a password. Either way, his death was attributed to his own actions. Here's what happened. John Campbell was returning from a scouting expedition late one night. He noticed a sentry that was asleep on duty. He shouted for the sentry to rise. Upon doing so, half asleep, the sentry put his rifle to his shoulder and fired. John Campbell crumpled to the ground with a groan. The sentry realized that he had made a mistake and gave the alarm. Campbell was immediately taken to his home, where the surgeon told everyone that his wounds were fatal. Campbell lingered for 30 days in agony until he finally passed away. Elijah Morgan. Elijah Morgan was also the son-in-law to Judge Josiah Combs. He went against the family and was a French supporter. This made him a lot of enemies. His death had been marked by the Eversole faction for some time. However, because he was very shrewd and had knowledge about the tactics that his enemy was using, he was able to sidestep ambushes and attacks. Previous to his death, Morgan had stated a desire for peace with his extended family members. He expressed the desire to lay down his arms and be permitted to live out his days in peace. Knowing this, the Eversole faction came up with a ruse. The Eversole faction assured Morgan that they also wished to be on great terms with him. They wanted to make an accord with him and told him that he could come to Hazard, Kentucky for that purpose. They promised Morgan that they would not harm him as he came into town on October 9, 1888, and that he would have the freedom of movement in the town. With these assurances, Morgan agreed to come to town to make the accord. Every effort was made to make sure that Morgan had no clue of the plot that would soon unfold. Snipers were placed at different points along Morgan's route to Hazard from his home, and several were placed at convenient spots in Hazard Township. Not seeing any trouble, Morgan and Frank Grace made their way to Hazard, Kentucky for the meeting. The account of the shooting is given by Musenberg. Quote, within less than 2 miles, in fact, little more than a mile from town, at a spot where the road is flanked by large overhanging cliffs on one side and the steep river bank on the other, Morgan was fired upon. A number of shots followed the first one. Grace was driven to cover. Morgan, in his death struggle, rode over the river bank where a small tree arrested further descent. Grace, not daring to abandon his place of comparative safety, remained a helpless spectator of the agonies of his dying friend. Country people, traveling toward town, at last came to Morgan's relief, but he died within a few hours. Unquote. The alarm went out, a posse was formed, but none of the men who were shooting at Morgan and Grace were ever discovered. The call for justice. Once again, the people of Perry County was shocked at the shooting of someone in the small community. The death of Elijah Morgan did not go over very well. The French faction openly charged the Eversole faction of murder. The Eversole faction expressed exasperation and resentment at this charge. The Eversole faction claimed that the French faction had no right for such outrage. After all, the Eversoles claimed that they had brought charges against the French faction for murders and nothing came of them. The murder of Morgan came on the heels of the murder of Shade Combs. It is widely believed that Morgan was killed in retaliation for the death of Combs. Circuit Judge Lilly tried to inspire the district with respect for his court, but this failed. This had gotten so bad in the counties of Breathitt, Letcher, Perry, Knott, and surrounding counties that Judge Lilly ordered troops of 45 state guards into Perry County to guard the court. The troops arrived in November of 1888 to help Lilly conduct the court. Lilly wrote a plea to the governor of the state of Kentucky for more troops to restore order. The following letter and response can be found in the book Kentucky's Famous Feuds and Tragedies. Quote, Hazard, Kentucky, November 13, 1888. To the Governor of Kentucky. Sir, Captain Sohan has succeeded in organizing a company of 45 state guards in Perry County. He informs me that he has no orders and does not know whether he will be ordered back to Louisville or go with me to Whitesburg, thence to Hindman, and thence to Breathitt, but in any event expects to be ordered away from here very soon. Mr. B.F. French is here with 15 or perhaps more men, well armed, and the people are so much alarmed, fearing that they will be left to the mercy of these men, that I have decided that I will take the responsibility upon myself to order the Perry County Guards on duty, hoping that you will approve my actions and order them on duty, and let their pay begin on the 17th instant. I will not attempt to hold courts at Letcher, Knott, or Breathitt unless you send guards along. No good can be accomplished by holding courts in any of these counties without a guard. If a sufficient guard is present, I think that much good would be accomplished in and by the moral effect it will have on the people by showing them that you are determined to have the courts held and the laws enforced, and to give protection to the good citizens. Please write me and send by the way of Manchester, as I shall return that way, and if I do not receive your letter here, can get it on the road. If you order the guard to go with me, I will go, and hold the courts if not provincially hindered. I remain truly yours, H. C. Lilly. After the first set of troops had arrived in Perry County, Sam Hill, a state guard, wrote Governor Buckner on November 14, 1888. In this letter he said only 35 people remained in the town when he arrived. Many came back, though, when they saw the troops were now in town. Governor Buckner's reply to Judge Lilly. Governor Buckner's reply, Executive Department, Frankfort, November 27, 1888. Honorable H. C. Lilly, Judge, Irvine, Kentucky. Dear Sir, I have the honor to acknowledge the receipt of your communication of the 13th instant from Hazard, Perry County, in which you say, quote, Mr. B. F. French is here with 15 or perhaps more men well armed, and the people are so much alarmed, fearing that they will be left to the mercy of those men, that I have decided that I will take the responsibility upon myself to order the Perry County Guards on duty, hoping that you will approve my actions and order them on duty, and let their pay begin on the 17th instant, unquote. At the time I received your communication, I was in communication with the sheriff of Perry County. I inferred from his statements that there was no immediate danger of an outbreak or opposition to the civil authorities, and second, but a slight effort has been made by him to arrest violators of the law. Your own statement does not inform me of anything more than a vague apprehension in the public mind, and does not advise me that the civil authorities cannot suppress any attempts at the disturbance by employing the usual force of civil government. I assume that if danger had been imminent, both you and the sheriff would have remained on the ground. The object of furnishing troops on your application was to protect the court in the discharge of its duties, and not to supersede the civil authorities by military force. Under the circumstances, I do not feel authorized to call the local militia into active service. Respectfully, your obedient servant, S. B. Buckner. Even though Governor Buckner basically called the residents of Hazard, Kentucky cowards for not taking control of the situation, one has to wonder if he truly understood the gravity of the situation. Those who were not taking a side with one faction or the other still feared for their lives. There was a real unease that an ambush or shooting could happen without warning. With the help of the troops, the Perry County Court term of November 1888 was mostly peaceful. Law and order seemed to be restored once again to Perry County. Because of the thought that the law had once again been obtained in the area, the troops were withdrawn for the next court term. This would be a terrible mistake, as the Battle of Hazard, Kentucky would soon take place. Thank you. We at Kentucky Tennessee Living would like to thank you for watching our video series on the Appalachian Feuds. Don't forget to hit that like button, as the more likes we receive, the more likely YouTube is to suggest our videos to other viewers. Also, to receive notice when we upload a new video, be sure to subscribe and click the bell notifications. We thank you for continuing to support Kentucky Tennessee Living as we are discovering the mysteries of Appalachian history.